Our oldest daughter has been going to Italian elementary school for 6 months now, and so we thought it would be a really good time to sit down, reflect on all of our thoughts and experience thus far.
The last time we talked about Italian school was when they were gearing up for school and started going. I think we shared maybe like the first few weeks of their experience at school. So we have a lot to share because it has been quite a culture shock getting integrated into Italian first grade.
Some of the first things that we recognized was just how welcoming everyone was. We talked about that in the first video, just like the really emotional experience of taking her to like her first day where she spent a few hours there, where they were singing the song Benvenuto a te, like welcome to you.
Siamo pronti a cominciare, che gran festa si farà. Benvenuto a te, benvenuto a te, a te.
Since then, like, the community has really just grown, and it has been something very special for us to see her, you know, become integrated with it, but also to become more comfortable. And then they're also like very welcoming to us, given a little bit of the language barrier, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say they've been very welcoming, especially as we're foreigners. The main question they had is Willa going to understand Italian? And we told her that she had about, 5 months of experience at her Italian asilo. She was picking up the language quickly, so we assumed she'd do well. However, she has done great.
Before we go on and brag about how well Willa has been doing with, like, speaking and understanding Italian, we wanted to address some of the initial shocks and adjustments because, as you might imagine, going to a new school in general comes with a lot of nerves. The adjustment, new teachers, learning. She came from the asilo, which was definitely more pre-K, game-played oriented.
Very, very play-centered. On her very first day, she was very excited. However, she did become a little nervous as she was there with her friends and they were like starting to walk into the school. You could just see the excitement and a little bit of the nerves. Unfortunately, when we picked her up from her first day of school, she was, I think, a little let down. She was like, we didn't even play at all.
She definitely said that for the next few weeks as well because she was just so used to going outside, playing, and not having to like sit into a desk. Thankfully, like, time has progressed and she's become more accustomed to it, but sitting down for that long was difficult. We will say that we are really grateful that she doesn't have like a full day at school.
That's probably typical for almost any first grader that's coming from more of a play-based learning to the classroom where they have to be still and they are learning to raise their hand and listen to the teacher. And I would say we saw a little bit of those effects, especially the first few weeks when we picked Willa up from school. She tended to have a little bit bigger emotions, and with time we've learned that sometimes just like a quiet moment in the car once we pick her up is what she needs to kind of like transition away from school back home to be with the family.
But I would say overall her experience has been really good despite being a little bored and wishing that she could play a little bit more. It's just the change of the nature, like writing and reading and singing, taking time to be in a desk and practice like letters has all been part of like the adjustment.
Overall, I feel like it's been so fun and exciting to see her personality shine through more and more. Like, Willa is quite the social girl, and there's been multiple days she's told us about how she has friend group here and they talk to her about her other friend group here. So honestly, I don't really know the groupies at her school, but I do know that Willa is in multiple different groups of friends, and it seems like she just like loves having those close friendships and being social.
I think any parent teaching their kid or having their kid exposed to another language, one of the funnest memories is getting to see your child grow their vocabulary and their confidence in speaking another language, and that has definitely skyrocketed. Now she's able to tell us like almost exactly like what questions she's being asked. So we just wanted to take a second and highlight a few words, kind of like short phrases that are very Italian that we've loved seeing her say. And although she's saying more complete sentences and telling stories and we can have like little conversations with her, these are some of like the funniest ones, I think. And the first one is like dai. So it's like the word, not like English word like die, but D-A-I, and it has many meanings to it, but it's almost like saying like, ah, come on. So she'll be like, dai papa, like, come on dad, like when I'm like maybe teasing her about something or asking her about something, she's like, dai papa.
At dinner time, there's been a couple occasions where she's like, Mamma Mia, or she's like telling a story and she's just like using her hand. And in fact, like the last time we kind of were like smiling and laughing about it, and she's like, what? Is it not okay to use it? And we're like, no, it is. Like, we love that you're doing that. It's just something that for Tanner and I is not common to do this. And I didn't grow up Italian, so I like I don't know when or if I'll ever, use the hand gestures. It just, in a sense, doesn't feel like as authentic. But she is, and we love that.
Another one that she says is like, mabe. And it's like the way of saying like, come on. I think there's probably more meanings to it. But she's had other times where it's more like little expressions or kind of like sighs, mabe, And the other one is chelo, which means like, I have it. And we're talking about something if like, hey, where is this item? We're talking about toys or like art supplies or something that we're cleaning up. And we're like, hey, where's this? And she's like, chelo. So it's kind of fun.
This fall, Willa has started to translate for me. Yes, so we'll be out and about, say at the supermarket with friends, a lot of times maybe even waiting in the morning, talking to her friends' parents. And I am trying to speak in Italian as best as I can. And there's Willa, my 5-6-year-old daughter, translating for me. And she'll be like, no, Mom, they didn't say this. They said this. Or she'll be like, oh, Mom. Like she's done that many times. Just like, get it together. And I'm like actively trying. I'm currently in an Italian class and I feel like I've been improving even more of my Italian. However, Willa is just surpassing me and I feel like I'm just like running trying to keep up. And at this point, like I don't think I'll ever be at the speed she is because she is learning so fast. That is like one of the best parts about like living abroad, having our girls integrated into the system is just seeing that language learning process. Even Noah is starting to say some phrases.
Yeah, she'll always say, my scuola is so fun. But then even more so now, she'll be like, allora. She said allora a few times.
Yeah.
And then what was
she'll
the other
say
one?
mamma mia.
Mamma mia. But then she'll say
aiutami.
Aiutami.
Or aiuto.
Aiuto. So she's becoming more vocal as well with like her little phrases and stuff. Yeah, it's just a really fun, proud parent moment to see them grow and be able to understand both languages. So structure for school kind of looks like this. Certain kids can sign up to take the bus, but we've opted out of it just because it requires them to be ready earlier in the day and we already have to take Noah as well.
And it comes with a cost. So I feel like we were being a little bit more cost aware because I have the time to take them.
And so with that, typically we take both the girls in the morning, and then on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, we pick them up a little bit earlier, and Tuesdays, Thursdays, they stay a little bit longer. Now, we grew up going to school like 8 to 3 in elementary school. So starting from kindergarten, you could do half day or full day, but then first grade and on, you could expect to be at school between 8 and 3. When registration was open, all of the parents in her class collectively agreed to do like the shorter hours per week, which we're looking back and we're so happy that we did because the kids are just getting used to getting into like longer days anyway. And I know you've really missed having them, so having them home earlier is bonus.
Yeah, so Willa's class goes for 27 hours a week, and I'm dropping her off in the morning and picking her up. And one thing that is different is it's not just like a drop-off where cars are lined up and the kids are getting out and there's a teacher there. I feel like that's maybe more of what I would think it looks like if I was in the States. Here it looks like parents parking their car, getting off, standing by the school and waiting for the teachers to come. And the teachers are quite timely of when they come out. As soon as they come out, a line of children is formed in front of them and then they head into the school. And at pickup, it's a very similar structure. So it's like a in-person exchange between the teacher and the parent, and of course the kid there. And I feel like it requires the most hands-on time than even in Germany and definitely in Japan. I'm not gonna lie, I miss the Japanese school drop-off system. Of course you still have to be there, but it came right to the door and you just are there and they come out and it's just quite easy. So I feel like because we came from that experience, this one has felt like a little bit more effort, but it is what it is. And I do like the safety of being able to see your kid go with the teacher and then walk into the class. Like that does feel extra safe and extra, I'd say, precautious.
A few interesting things we found out with the school is that they don't have lunch like we were typically thinking, but rather they have the parents pack a snack, one snack for Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then 2 snacks for Tuesday, Thursdays on the longer days. So that's like a little bit of an adjustment for us, but it's nice because then we can pack. We know exactly what they're getting. The downside is we have to pack it. So
and they're not getting like homemade Italian food. I would love if they had lunch. That would be amazing. Thankfully, Noah's getting that in her asilo, and it's the highlight, honestly. Asking her what she had for her day, and Willa is jealous that Noah gets polenta and pizza and pasta and all of the things because she really misses that.
Another thing we were not really expecting is that during snack times, we found out within a few weeks that the teachers in her class particularly would put on like cartoons. And that was a really, I would even say a shock, because nowhere did we expect that they would be turning on the TV for them while they were eating, especially coming from Italy, where a lot of the times we think about, okay, like they're taking their time for food, it's a social event, like it would be kind of expected that kids could interact while they have it. Unfortunately, the class is a little bit bigger, and they have a few kids that have a harder time sitting down and following the rules as far as like taking turns and speaking out of turn. So that's what the teachers had told us. In fact, I even asked like the parent representative for the class if they knew that they were doing that, and they said yes, like we did. And even some parents didn't even know. Like we were walking with the parents one day and they were like, wait, what? So they did talk to them during like a little parent teacher conference thing, and they said that with time they're hopefully going to get rid of that, but it was the easy, quick way that they were able to get the attention of all the kids so that they would actually have snack time during snack time.
For the most part, I feel like we have very positive things to say about our experience. However, that is one major one for me. And then another one, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a big negative thing. It's just come as a bit of a shock to me, and that is how maybe strict the teachers are. I've personally seen it with my eyes on like morning drop-offs and pickups of like the teachers snapping at the kids. So honestly, this is something that's fairly new for us at home. We do try and have like a steady but still like gentle, at times firm parenting if needed, but our main goal is like connection and love and gentleness. Overall, just trying to treat them with the same respect as we would want to offer to anyone, ourselves, our kids, etc. So when I see that, maybe it's the American mom in me, I don't know, but it does feel like their teachers are what I would deem, like in my experience growing up in the States, as like the strict teachers. And like I mentioned, it's not like it's a big negative thing. I feel like I'm still figuring out the normals here in Italy, and maybe I just have to accept that that's the normal. In fact, Willow went over to one of her friend's house, and we went and had biscotti with them, and we're talking to them. And when I brought this up with them, they were like, that is normal. They were following up to say they need to do that. The kids need to learn how to respect the teachers.
A few specifics about like the coursework. Now, like we said, they are inside a lot more than what Willow's used to, so that's been an adjustment. But we also will say they spend a lot more time inside than we even did like elementary age. I feel like we had 2 times where we'd go to recess during the day, guaranteed, unless it was like really bad weather. And there'll be days like today where it's like great weather to go outside, and she'll come home and we'll ask, did you guys go outside today? And she'll say no. So that's a little bit of a surprise. Getting more into like the coursework of things, they have different subjects during the days, so it's almost like an A-B schedule of sorts, which was definitely different for us because we would only have like 1 teacher in elementary school. But I know that she has at least 3 teachers every day, and sometimes 4. So that's fun. She gets to change up like the routine and has music on some days, has art, has like extra math and English, Italian, like all of these different courses, which makes it fun and like not get them so bored. I think if they go over the same subject, they kind of have it like a lot more coursework than I would have expected.
Yeah, she's coming home with homework at least every other day, I would say. At the beginning, it wasn't quite as much. But yeah, I have mixed feelings about that as well because, you know, she's only 6. I will say a lot of their homework is coloring activities, things that are like maybe 1 page. However, it's just the fact that she's having to do more coursework after a day at school. Maybe that just comes with the fact that they have shortened hours though.
Yeah, and we can totally agree with that. If that's the trade-off, like having that where she needs to spend 5 to 10 minutes at home to do it, I think we'll take it. I actually had never thought about that until you said it now, so that
Yeah.
makes sense.
But we have heard from Italians that homework is something that is like highly emphasized, and as they get older, Italians in high school have like hours and hours of homework. So I don't know if this is the start of just gradually progressing up to that. I'm not sure. I would love to hear if you guys have any feedback or opinions on it.
When she does come home and has homework, they usually draw like a little house figure on the pages that they need to do, which is kind of cute because she draws it. Typically, they try and practice like the name of the town where we live and like the date every day at the top of the page. They use who knows how many sticks of glue every single week. I think we literally have gone through like 20 sticks of glue this school year.
No, that's an exaggeration,
Okay.
but it feels like it.
10?
Might be closer.
And that's just because they have like normal papered books for each of the subjects, different colored ones that they had to get at first.
They're like notebooks.
And then the teacher provides them with handouts, which they then glue into the books. And sometimes in my head, I'm like, why don't we just have the book be like their actual thing that they need? But I understand it gives them ultimate flexibility on which pages has what, etc. But it's like, I swear it's like every week she's like, hey, I'm out of glue, and we have to get like another one out of the box. Another thing that we do know that she goes through a lot of are like the colored pencils. They do tons of artwork, which we've noticed that her desire to be more artistic and her like ability to draw, and she's doing really well, has grown exponentially over the last few months. But we are having to buy like on our second or our third box of like colored pencils because she loves like the pink and the yellow and purple and
Yeah, there's a specific few that are used more than others, which is fun. Yellow and pink are the top two by far.
and then there's like the heavy emphasis on like handwriting, which we both really appreciate, like being able to write legibly, and like numbers and shapes and letters and stuff is really important. And I do know that they are going to be eventually introducing cursive, which will be kind of a fun thing. We actually tried to sit down the other day and like write out cursive letters. I was totally off at first, and then she was so confident. She's like, I remember how to do it. And you went through and got, I will give you most of them right.
Yes.
But there were like 5 or 6 that you didn't get right, the letters, and I was like, that is not it. And you're like, oh yeah, it is.
It's been a long time, and really, once you learn it, you can choose to continue to write in cursive, but if you don't, like, you know.
Yeah.
I don't really do it, and I definitely do my S's different, like in our last name. I don't follow the structure of it. Anyways, kind of a fun thing. I will say, though, that my best friend is actually a teacher, and she was over here looking at some of Willa's Italian homework out of curiosity, and she was like, Willa has great penmanship, and I didn't even think of it. Like, I think it looked fine to me, but, you know, I don't have anything to compare it with. And so I feel like it kind of fits the mold. Like if Italians and some of the teachers here are emphasizing that she's having so much practice for it, like you're starting to see it, like in her drawing, in her penmanship.
Because at this point I speak Italian and understand it the best, I'm typically the one that's like doing the communication through like the app, which is definitely a new thing for us because we didn't have apps going through school. We'll get probably 3 or 4 documents a week where we have to read like announcements, or notifications, mark absences in there, so like that's kind of new. But with that, a lot of the communication has gone through like WhatsApp groups with like the parents and the teachers about activities, announcements, and so like being within that community has been like a great way for us to learn additional vocabulary, practice, have interactions, and ultimately go to like parent-teacher conferences. And briefly, I did go to one a few weeks ago, and it was just like a progress report like parent-teacher conferences are. And it was really good to hear. Like, I walked into the classroom and the teachers were like, oh, like, Willa's dad, like, okay, well, you don't even have to sit down, everything's good. Like, and of course I took some time to ask some questions, get some feedback on everything. How is she doing overall? And they said, you know, she seems to be adapting really well, and they were happy to have her in the class.
It just makes us really proud parents. We saw it from home, but to like hear it from the teachers who are seeing her and being able to like see her in a classroom social setting. Yeah, it's that moment that hits you of like, okay, it's not just us. Other people are saying she's really excelling and she's doing a great job. And it feels good knowing how much work and time and energy we put in to get us here in the Italian school system. It feels like, check, we did the right thing. Like we knew it, but like we got the signature on that one. So one of the last topics we're going to be mentioning is the cultural traditions and school experiences that the kids are having. A few weeks ago, Willa came home with a paper talking about an Italian language course that would be offered after school. When I first heard about it, I was like, this is awesome. What like an amazing experience. And then I continued to read that it was 4 hours long. So every Monday of the week, she would attend school. Her peers would go home, a couple would stay, but only a select few, and then they would have lunch, 2 snacks, and in total be there for 4 hours learning Italian in more depth. As a parent, as her mom, I was like, that's a long time.
Yeah, we both thought, like, I don't think we want her to go there. Like, she already comes home feeling like that was good, like I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, but like I'm ready to be home. And so we initially said no on the paper, and then I eventually reached out to like one of the other parents during drop-off or pickup, and they said, oh, it's actually like games. It's not like structured learning. I mean, it's still structured, but with games. And they said usually it's like a big hit. And then each grade changes the subject every year. So they offer it for a select number of students if they sign up. And so although we initially were like against it, we decided we would give it a try because I'm pretty sure we could just have her come home if we didn't like it anymore. And we're so glad we did because her response has been amazing. She's really said it's her favorite part of the week, and especially of that day where they get to stay, they get to play games, sing songs, and there's like other Italians there, so it's not just her, but it's definitely for all kids that show up there. And it's, yeah, it just really helps them dive deep into topics and subjects that maybe they don't get to focus on as much during school.
It comes with a lot of advantages as well. For one, it's free, so that's awesome that she's getting that. For two, it's coming with Italian food and snacks, which Willa, as we mentioned, has really missed having that. So it's nice she's getting that once a week. And then for three, she's able to make new friends because this program was offered to many different schools in the commune and maybe even a little bit further. Other schools are having buses pick up these kids to bring to her school, and it just happened to be, I guess, the setting of her school where it takes place. So it's all been a win-win-win. We do get a little less time with her, but if she's happy, then that's what we want for her.
And then recently we were able to go to like a Christmas presentation, a Christmas assembly for her at her school. It's just really fun to see like all the work that the teachers put in with the kids. We've been listening for the last little bit, some of the songs, trying to get her to like practice them and know the words better. And so it's fun, like going to a Christmas pageant, which we did in Japan as well, and that was really fun.
A Christmas program.
But just to see, yeah, not a pageant.
Yeah.
But just fun to see like the differences between the two countries, and then thinking back at like the types of Christmas programs that we experienced growing up. Wrapping up the video, not to end on a negative note, but we've already mentioned a few of these, and those are some of the items that we don't necessarily love, at least initially, about her experience. And some of them has been just like we said, the cartoons, less time outdoors. One random day Willa came home with like a band-aid and like a really big scratch on her face, and we were like, what? We didn't even know. But that was because I had changed cell phone numbers, and so they had tried contacting me. Anyway, luckily everything was fine, and when I talked to them, they said like it was an isolated incident and like there was like a misunderstanding. It doesn't seem like there's any like future potential for any like injuries or something, but it was kind of like a surprise.
We mentioned this just because it is not uncommon for me talking with my American friends that have their kids integrated into the Italian system, or just our experience to have, you know, our kids come home with some bumps, bruises, scratches, for example. The kids tend to like rough play a little bit, and I would say their rough is maybe like a little bit more physical than we're used to, especially coming from Japan. So yeah, hopefully there's no more of that in the future, but it has been something we have experienced. But overall, our impressions of the past 6 months are that we're so happy we are integrated into the Italian school system, and we are so proud of Willa. And Noah. We didn't talk a lot about her, but both of them are excelling. Noah's loving her school, and it's just nice, especially for me being like the stay-at-home parent, to be able to not like worry about my kids at school. Like, they're happy to go, albeit sometimes they're tired in the mornings getting ready. They're eager to learn, and they're eager to be with their friends, and that's such a relieving feeling because we've gotten over like the hardest parts.
At this point, we're really proud of both of them, and we hope that they just continue to like integrate more and more. For anyone else who has moved to Italy and is having their kids go to the local schools, we'd love to hear your experience and how it's been, how it differs from what we shared with you today. But more importantly, we hope that you guys have enjoyed this video, and be sure to check out our every other week podcast episodes where we're sharing more behind the scenes of like our time here, a time in Germany, a time in Japan, and really a lot more in-depth conversations of similar things like what moving abroad looks like.
Thanks so much, guys. Ciao!